Hello, everyone. Welcome to Weekly Manga Recap here on the 3rd of November, 2021. I am Nick, joined by Chris, or Chris joined by me. Honestly, it's probably the better way of phrasing it. But anyway, we're both here in this electronic place to bring you black and white manga comic thingies that have punches.
We're not bringing you them. We're not making any manga yet.
No.
Imagine if that was a Patreon goal. Chris and Nick make a manga, but it's
good art school.
That's the thing. We already have their money. What can they do? It'd be fucking scribbles.
Maybe not record this conversation and post it to the internet.
Oh no. So like my favorite part of the Aqua Teen Hunger Force movie, where it opens with them doing like a parody of the Let's All Go to the Lobby song, and it just like devolves into like a bunch of angry food shouting, and they're like, "What will you do? Leave? We already have your money." It just does an entire song about they're like, "You're gonna hate this, but we already have your money. So what are you gonna do about it?"
God, that's some energy.
Yeah,
we have plenty of manga to discuss today, so I think we're just going to need to just get into it because I'm sure everyone is looking forward to us talking about. Well, you'll see. So,
the best part is I don't actually know which series that is because there's at least 2 series that are very hotly anticipated this week.
Phew, yeah. So let's begin with My Hero Academia, chapter number 331, United States of America. So last time Star and Stripe tried to use her ability, which basically just lets her just assign rules to things that she touches and says the name of, to try and murder Shigaraki.
Yes.
Well, take him prisoner, but with the penalty of death if he did any sort of resistance. But it didn't work because he's technically not really Shigaraki anymore. And we get one all-for-one / Shigaraki after Star and Stripe is blown away from him. His hair is like Super Saiyan 3 length now, but it's also looks way better because it's like flowing in the wind as opposed to, just stealing his eyebrows and just being super spiky. And he just starts kind of like talking to himself about there are rules that go along with Star and Stripe's powers that the public is not privy to because she is such an important and powerful hero. And he essentially figures out, okay, she can't assign rules to living things or sentient things as easily as she can assign them to just physical, non-living things like the air around her. And he basically starts saying there must be some sort of rules confining her because she didn't make it that if I touched the air there, I would die. So basically all the things that people were saying about like Star and Stripe's power seems really broken is like, no. There might be limitations on them.
Well, you think it's broken now. What I do like is that there's 2 pages. And I believe, I think it might have been a Reddit conversation that leaked to our Discord that if you put it side by side with that one Hunter x Hunter page where the characters just talk about Nin and it's just white backgrounds with fucking text over it of an explanation of things, it really does feel identical to that where you're like, yeah, this is 2 pages of just let's explain Star and Stripe's powers as hypothesized by the villain.
Hold on, we'll be talking more about Hunter x Hunter and its bullshit, really long explanations in a few more series. So, but Shigaraki / all for one / who the hell ever is really excited by this because it gives him a chance to really push himself and test his abilities. Star and Stripe, I do love the only like in this 2 pages of explanation, there are 2 interesting things to look at, which are their faces right next to each other, making interesting expressions. Shigaraki looking really excited, and Star and Stripe being like, this is bullshit.
I hate this. You suck. Why aren't you dead?
So one of the stealth fighter pilots that is on her side says, what should we do? because we've been shooting this guy with lasers and stuff, and he's fine. And Star and Stripe says, we got to get word to Commander Akbar. Which she might as well be saying Admiral Akbar there. Let's be real. Like, it might as well be.
So I forget who pointed this out, but if you take the first letter of every sentence Admiral Akbar says, it spells out it's a trap. I think it's an intentional decision by the translation team here, but it's not a subtle thing. It's Akbar.
It absolutely is, yes. Holy shit! Oh man. All right, that's just extending the joke. I appreciate that. All right. But Star and Stripe basically says, yeah, because all the pilots are saying, are you sure that like this is a good idea? Like, that is he even going to help us after you defied orders and came out here? And Star and Stripe just says, look, this is too important to get caught up on that kind of stuff. This guy is way more than just a menace to Japan. He is a threat to the entire world. And we got to use tactics that Japan lacks to make him dead now. Which means more guns.
Yes.
Because America.
In a way, it's a gripping commentary.
I mean, it's very direct. I'll just say that much. Like America. So, but then Star and Stripe suddenly gets kind of more playful after like there's this, because what she's saying, like, we gotta kill this guy, and there's a zoom in on her face, and like everything, it makes her face look dark so that you could tell it's like all a super serious anger filled moment. And then she immediately like blows one of them a kiss. It's like, hey, just give me a place so I can plant my feet until we make a safe landing, okay, bros? And they're just kind of like, well, yeah, this is the girl who we gotta work with, okay.
And then, as if to fully cement, like, well, this is just our lot in life, we flash back to her being like, nice to meet you. When we all die, we die together.
Because you guys are my brothers. Nice to meet you.
But when one of us dies, we all die. Like a horror movie. We're all linked together.
We have to chain ourselves together. No escape for any one person.
When one of us dies, I don't care if he fell off a fucking ladder and just broke his back and they decided it'd be better to just euthanize him. We're all taking the suicide pill, all right? It's just what we're doing.
I am curious why exactly Star and Stripe is given all these people associated with her with clear Star Wars references. Because there's a pilot there named Wedge. There's Admiral Akbar.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I think that because while I was reading this, like, it was definitely putting in my head of like, this is very Star Warsy. And then it turns out her name is Cassie, and I very nearly read it as Carrie, as in Carrie Fisher.
Oh.
But it's not that. So I don't know. It's like, I don't know. When I think of Star Wars, the first thing that comes to my mind is not America, but whatever.
It's just Horikoshi loves Star Wars.
Yes.
Well, it's been a consistent theme throughout his mind. I shouldn't even say theme.
Phantom Menace.
Yeah, it's just a constant. He references it a lot. So this was an opportunity. Hey, I'm gonna have some space pilots. Fuck it. Biggs and Wedge. There's got to be an admiral. It's gonna be Akbar. And then he throws everybody for a loop. He's like, no, it's Holdo. Suck it, fanboys. The Last Jedi was great. I'm referencing that one. Holdo maneuver. And all you can do is fucking sit here and let it happen again.
All right. So then the chapter gets crazy. So the pilot that Shigaraki's the plane that Shigaraki's perched on, the pilot does a barrel roll and shakes him off. And then Star and Stripe uses her ability to say, the air now forms into my shape, but 1,000 times bigger, and declares, fist bump to the earth, while a giant air golem of herself punches the air and punches the shit out of Shigaraki and sends him flying. And then she claps her hands together and squishes him with the air that is in her hands. And then, defying the whole, she always uses one of her declarations to give herself super strength, she now does, while maintaining her air golem thing, has her pilot buddies fire their lasers and use her other rule to combine all the lasers into a giant spear, which she stabs into Shigaraki and sends him plummeting into the ocean. And he's still not dead because he's the main villain of the series. But at that moment, she gets a contact back from Agbar, who says that he doesn't approve of Starstripe going off on her own like this. But Star's like, whatever. Are you gonna give me the help you need? And he says, a special favor just this once. Japan's been informed that the strike is imminent. The fact is, your flagrant defiance of the rules really has made our nation shine all the brighter. There he goes. Yeah, you broke the international law, but you kicked ass doing it. America!
Hell yeah, you did it cool. All right.
And he even says, All Might couldn't put a proper end to this villain, so prepare to surpass him. Their name is Tiamat. Make sure every last one hits the mark. And we pull it back up into space where a whole bunch of cruise missiles are shooting through the atmosphere towards Japan to kill the fuck out of Shigaraki all for one.
Huh. It's definitely an escalation of things, and I would be lying if I said it wasn't fucking awesome to summon a giant air golem and grab a bunch of lasers to essentially Zeus Thunder Shigaraki into oblivion just to hold him long enough for the nukes to show up. I'm still in the space, though, of like, I'm not sure why any of this is happening. I feel like we've seen probably the coolest thing that New Order is going to do. So
Probably.
I'm not sure what the real benefit of Shigaraki getting her power would be. Perhaps we shall see. But it's interesting. I'll say that. I was thoroughly manga-tained.
See, this is the problem. You never use your Bankai if you're a captain, because that means that you can't have it in the tank, and that means you can get killed off now. Except for Rikitaka. He just died without ever using it.
He's the exception that proves the rule.
Exactly.
Uh,
But yeah, I'm with you fully in terms of, yeah, I don't really know much about Star and Stripe as a character, but that was fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Giant golem and laser spear. Who cares? It was fun.
Yeah,
So.
it was all good. All right, let's move on then, Nick, to Undead Unluck number 85, round 1. We get a very cool cover page with Fuko, Andy, and Spring. It's very nice. So last time, Fuko dove into the treasure chest of artifacts and pulled out the top that she had the flashback of Spring on and says, we'll play with this top. And once we do, I'll be able to like you even more. And Spring goes to punch Fuko. Is basically like, fuck you, curses upon you. And everyone's like, wait, isn't it like prohibited to attack someone during the game? And they're like, no, that's not how this works. Spring's even like, you will learn to love a rule utterly preposterous. But apparently that punch was not an attack. It was to set up the arena for their new game, Beyblade. Nick, your favorite series.
Face off and spin the metal. No time for doubt now. No place for backing down.
Yeah, let's all talk about our favorite characters from it. There was a kid with a tiger thing. Like, I don't know if you had a tiger.
You officially said more about the Beyblade series than I have ever known, so congratulations.
There's a kid who looks like Ash but isn't Ash. And then I think there's like a mean kid. There's no one who talks like Joey, but the series definitely would be improved if there was. Just one kid was like, hey, Yoke, let's go play some tops over here. Actually, that's interesting. That's, fucking, what's his name? Hickory Dickory Dock. God damn it. What's his name? I want to call him Andrew Lloyd Webber. That's the playwright. Andrew Dice Clay. That's it. All came together. I got it. Nick, they're doing tops.
What would the equivalent of the one scene where we learned that Joey just throws as many monsters as possible into his deck and doesn't play good? Would it be as I made my top as heavy as possible?
I tied bricks to it. That way no one will ever knock it out of the arena. Like, but you lose when it stops too. Oh shit! I should have read the full page of rules.
It's only the one page.
It's just a leaflet. The backside's just advertisements. So yeah, they're going to have it's essentially a Beyblade match. The rules are if something a top were to stop or go out of bounds or shatter, that is the loser of the game. However, it's got an extra rule. If you die in Beyblade, you die in real life. So they're going to be playing with tops that are transformed from other negators. And if they are shattered, then they will die as well. So Spring offers a first or second choice to Fuko, and she says second. And Spring says, "You dumb bitch, I'm taking Undead. Ha-ha! Gotcha!" And of course, Fuko's like, "Thank you for doing that, because now I don't have to worry about who I'm going up against." And Fuko says, "I'll be picking Unbreakable." And Nick fucking Ishin shows up, and I really like, even though we saw the tease to Ishin, it has come so far out of left field to be like, Ishin's an important character now. We're dealing with Ishin now, that I don't know how to process it. Because even Ishin's like, I don't know what's happening here.
What happened? Why?
Ishin is not speaking. Ishin just pulls out a sign that basically says all of their thoughts. And Fuko has to explain, "We're having a spinning top battle, and I would like to turn you into a top. And they say if the top breaks, the person dies, but you're unbreakable, so no one will die. Plus, I saw your memories."
I love that there is this conversation going on, and Ishin is rapidly switching out signs to talk. And when Fuko says, "Yeah, if the top breaks, the person dies," they're just like, "Die!"
Yeah, I love this side of Ishin that's like, "Oh no, I'm not supposed to be out here." And basically even says, "Do you know about Spring?" And I love it because Ishin is now foaming at the mouth, saying, "Not only do I not know his face, this is terrifying. This is terror embodied. I want to leave."
I'm gonna go home now.
And Billy comes in saying, "You're wasting your time. You're talking to the negator that is the biggest coward in the organization. One that uses the excuse that their ability is too valuable to endanger, to rarely take part in quests, and remains a shut-in. Unbreakable can only make things like weapons and simple cages. They can't make armors for others to wear or anything of that nature, and yet they're able to make their own armor. So pick someone else. They're simply..." And Fuko immediately interrupts and says, "Please, Mr. Shin, lend me your help. In order to learn more about Spring, I need your help. Everyone's lives counts on it as well. I beg you." And Shin pulls, I guess they aren't pulling down. Their bottom jaw just opens. And the person inside says, "How are you able to fight?" And we all get the moment of, what? Samus was a woman all along. Shin is a woman. And immediately, Shin's just saying, "Up until now, I thought that you, Chikara, and Top were just like me. You were all scared, but everyone keeps getting stronger, and I want to show that I can be useful too. You know, I've been afraid of not being able to make things right, that I haven't been make armor for everyone. I'm pathetic." And Fuko's like, "No, you're unbreakable, saved us so many times in the past." And I was like, yes, the one time I can think of is referenced in that panel. And other than that, I really can't think of too many times that Unbreakables come super in handy.
Well, you got to start somewhere.
So. Yes. And there's a note of, that's not enough. The first Ishin in the Edo period made armor for everyone. And at the end of the Edo period in spring of 1868, the 4th year of the blah, 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 thanks to the soldiers clad in unbreakable armor, control of Edo Castle was taken, and the bloodless siege.
Muketsu Kaijo.
Yeah. And the note is, the truth was altered by the organization, but the Tonka poem, scryed at the time, has been passed down for generations. And it's this little poem that we get showing about how my unbreakable shall prove through the course of this battle that I waged, the blossoms, omens of good, the warmth that spring holds within. Fuko's like, That's a nice poem. I'm sure the first Ishin loved the spring. And we see a moment of Spring looking at the top and is like, fuck it, just do it now. Just do it now. So they start their fight. And Fuko's like, look, the reason I'm able to fight is because I have everyone I hold dear to protect. You could be just like the first. After all, you've been working so hard in the organization to this very day. And Shin says, I want to be like that. Not just someone who makes weapons, but someone who can protect everyone. That's the unbreakable I strive for. And immediately they start Beyblading and smacking against each other. And top Shin has a little sign that says, on second thought, I cannot do this.
That is a great final image to close on. The top spinning while Fuko and Spring strike cool pose in the background. There's fucking lightning coming down. It's a really cool shot. I like how much of Ishin's personality we suddenly got all at once, because it leaves a really strong impression. This is a very Undead Unluck chapter. Something weird is going on, and you're being given really, really, really rapid introductions to characters, and they leave a strong impression immediately. So it would have been nice to see some of this stuff from Ishin a little bit earlier. But hey, like I said, you gotta start somewhere. This is a great start to actually making them a proper character.
It's amusing, like, because I absolutely agree. And then I stop and I'm like, this is only chapter 85. This series hasn't even been running 100 chapters, and it's still gotten through like more than half of their organization at this point.
Yeah, so, and how long has this shit been around? Like 80 chapters.
Yeah. Well, look, you could be like those fucking losers like Phil and Nico who we don't know anything about yet. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Ishin some more, and you're absolutely right. It was a great introduction to Ishin's character and making you like them in general.
I also really appreciate that while in top form, both Ishin and Andy have like all the features that, despite the fact you can like only see their face, you can tell unmistakably who they are, and it feels like you could do that with a lot of the cast of this series. And it draws attention to the fact that like, oh man, a lot of characters in the series are very, very different from each other, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Kaiju number 8. Chapter 48. There's another weapon, another kaiju weapon that everyone has. It was made from the retina of kaiju number 1. And kaiju number 9 gets fucked up by it because it's Sharingan. It has future sight. It can predict movements even before the movements are made. Okay? And the Kaiju number 9 gets cut up. Yay, done. It's the end of the battle. Narumi did it. Kaiju number 8 did it. They've destroyed the Hanju, and all the regenerated Yoju are beginning to fade because their influence is gone. But this isn't the end of the battle, and Isao starts to warn everyone, like, hey, not yet, not yet. But Hikaru actually shouts this before he can get out and says, hey, there's still some Yoju left. We've got to transition to extermination duties, and we've got to protect everyone. So we get this moment of like, oh, Hikaru sure has grown up, and it's a nice, cool, strong, responsible agent. And I do appreciate that we have that attention thrown on her because, yeah, without her, Kafka wouldn't have gotten that moment to shine. So it's not just about Narumi and Kafka. It is also about her having made a big wave in this battle. Also, one of the commanders, I believe it is Narumi's lieutenant, is observing how well the battle has actually gone overall, because in their defensive perimeter, there are only 2 points where the line was breached. The damage was minimal, despite the fact that there were 2 different Kaiju number 9s at work during all of this. And he just thinks to himself, like, is this what Director General Shinomiya envisioned, his idea of the strongest division? Just like, hey, there's all this great danger coming towards us. Is this the defense unit that Shinomiya had in mind to protect us from all those threats? And everything gets mopped up, and at the end of the battle, Kafka de-transforms, and he and Hikaru spot each other, and give each other a little fist bump. It's nice little moment. And Isao calls out over the radio saying, Narumi, Hibino, and you too, Hikaru. Well done. And Kikoro like just looks in shock over at Kafka, like, my dad praised me.
It happened.
And he gives her a thumbs up, and she starts to get blushy and emotional and tries to control herself. But afterwards, Isao says, "Hey, secure the residence and make sure everyone's safe." And they salute and go off to do that. But Narumi, posing by himself, thinks something here isn't right. What the hell that kaiju guy said to kaiju number 8? I'm going to kill you and take that great kaiju power for myself. The killing part I get, but what about the other thing? What was that thing's goal? Was it really just to kill number 8? Or was it to take that great kaiju power? I think we can all agree Narumi's not actually very smart.
Yeah.
And suddenly an alarm goes off while he's thinking about what Kaiju number 9's true goal was. Everyone's like, what the hell's going on? And there's a voice that says, so I made it in time. And the corpse, or one of the corpses of Kaiju number 9, speaks to Kafka and says, too bad, Kaiju number 8. I wasn't able to kill you, but I'll be carrying out my other goal. I'm going to take a great kaiju power for myself. But we kind of all figured that maybe he was talking about Kaiju number 8's power when he was saying that before. But no! He's found Kaiju number 2! And he looms up behind Isao inside the headquarters, and he looks big and dark and menacing, and he says, like, I found them! A compatible user at Kaiju number 2! So shit gonna go down.
Yeah. I don't know how to 100% feel. I've found myself ever since we've started this arc finding myself less sort of invested in Kaiju number 8. So I'm like, this is an interesting twist. Yet at the same time, I don't much care. Like I'm not super invested at the moment.
Yeah, something's going on. And I think that where this arc has shined is when it has been just like, hey, this is what, Kikoru is all about. And look at her doing cool things. And in the meantime, we've kind of gotten away from Kafka in order to, like, what makes him actually him in order to do the whole, oh, he's scared of using his powers and hurting people, which, like, I understand, but that's not really a big thing with his character. It's just, like, a thing that can be applied to any sort of shonen character who suddenly gets super strength. And Narumi sucks. So there's a couple of things that have been working against this whole sequence. So.
All right. Let's talk Spy Family.
Yes. It's mission 55. Hey, Yor beat the sword assassin guy last time. She just now thinks to herself, how did my weapon end up here? Because, of course, Anya threw it up to her. And she just kind of is like, did someone throw it? It must have been the wind, picking up these heavy metal objects.
I guess the clues were there from the beginning, but I didn't realize until now that Yor is a Skyrim NPC. And like a dude just got shot to death in front of her, and she's like, afterwards, she's like, must be the wind, and then carried on with their life.
She goes to try and find Director McMahon and see how he's doing, but judging by the trail of blood leading away from somewhere, someone has gotten away from the site of the battle. Dun, dun, dun.
Bum, 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 bum.
Lloyd has immediately realized this was too easy. That bomb I disarmed couldn't have been the only bomb. There must be another one somewhere. And Anya is running around. She's got to get back to her daycare center place because the lady attending is going to be mad if she's missing. But she comes across the assassin coordinator guy, who is, of course, thinking about, like, God damn it, stupid fucking, I was supposed to kill these people. And, of course, Anya thus is able to tell that he's a bad guy. And then, while she runs off from him, he sniffs and goes, wait a minute, do I smell explosives? And Anya realizes, there's explosives in the clock! More bombs! The coordinator guy goes off. Anya thinks to herself, what can I do? I've got to tell Papa about this, but I don't know where he is. And even if I tell him, then I'll blow my ESP secret. So she's got to tell someone else about it. So she calls to a crew member after, of course, cleverly disguising herself. No one will ever recognize the 6-year-old girl if she puts on sunglasses and a head sash thing. And she makes up the excuse that she saw a guy wipe a booger on the clock. And the guy at first is going to dismiss it, and then he's like, someone was acting suspicious while we're on the lookout for bombs. I guess I better check it out. So
Now, Booger on the Clock, that's the newest Dan Brown novel, isn't it? It does.
Tom Hanks, Booger on the Clock.
I will find you! Well, now, Nick, what's the song that gets slowed down dramatically to be played during the Booger on the Clock commercial or trailer? Because I was thinking Girls Just Want to Have Fun. They just wanna.
Well, like Ewan McGregor slowly picks his nose.
And reaching towards it. Girls,
Wait, him again? Yeah, he survived the last one where he set himself on fire and died.
They wanna have. And then hard cut. Boogers on the Clock. Part 1.
But what kind of bullshit clue is left for him to realize that there's a booger on the clock?
Well, this could be. We're gonna start the other MCU, the Mystery Cinematic Universe, and it's actually Nicolas Cage showing up from National Treasure. He's like, I just saw the world's biggest ball of yarn, and inside of it there was a booger, so I knew it was a clue. Like he ran out of famous American money.
I went and stole a bunch of things that might have clues on them to where the other boogers are.
I hit a couple along the way. What?
National treasures or boogers? Yes. Anyway. The information specialist guy is getting away in his little raft. He's going to, of course, blow up the ship and get away. And he's still listening in on stuff on the ship to make sure that everything goes according to his plan, to make sure that the explosives actually go off, which might be why he's hanging out by the yacht long enough for the coordinator guy to just use his belt and rappel down the rope tying the raft to the yacht. And then he calls him Snoops, which I guess is his official name now. We'll go with that.
Yeah.
They immediately start bickering and are like, you're going to abandon us, huh? Yeah, well, you guys fucked up, so yeah, I'm abandoning you. Well, let's leave. No, I only brought enough supplies for me. So then they are going to have a fight on this raft, which they start to, and it goes about as well as you'd expect it to. A bomb gets reported on the upper deck. It is in the clock after they take a look inside it. They're like, shit, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? Lloyd takes a look at the bomb and he's like, we need to get the people. No, we don't have time to get to order an evacuation because there's so little time left on this thing. So he just takes a screwdriver and detaches the clock from the pole that it's sitting on. And some days you just can get rid of a bomb because he just does the Batman thing and just starts running with it. Runs to the edge of the yacht. And he's like, I gotta throw it into the sea. And fortunately, there's no kids playing. There's no little duckies. He just throws it and it goes straight into the raft where the guys are fighting and blows up basically on top of them. And sends them flying through the air, and of course it capsizes them and goes into the sea. And Laura's like, oh, that was a close one. The other crew member who came with him is like, that thing was a priceless clock. And then they're like, did you hit something? Doesn't.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things of like almost like a Saturday morning cartoon, which I guess Spy Family is trying to emulate. The idea of like, these guys are hurt. They are still alive. But then having to address it afterwards and being like, yeah, I don't give a shit. I hope they're dead after all.
Here's some sharks.
Yeah.
Anya has a moment where she goes, "All right, the bomb was stopped, thanks to me."
I'm the hero. I saved the day.
She's not wrong.
To a certain
Uh,
extent, if she hadn't talked about that booger on the clock.
Yeah, she's a genius, it turns out. The daycare lady finds her and says, "Why'd you run off like that?" And she's like, "I needed to poo real bad." And she starts dragging her off. And she says, "But that might not have been the last bomb!" To which the teacher says, "Oh, you need to go boom, boom again? Okay, let's go." Such a god. Sharks circle around the two assassins. Everyone regroups between Yor and Mr. McMahon and their target helpers, their protection targets. And Mr. McMahon gets a raft ready for them to launch off so that they get to safety. Yor wishes them luck and to have a good life after this. And she gets a big old hug as thanks for all the protection she's given them and stuff. And then the mother says, "Graham wants a goodbye hug too." And Yor's like, "I am literally covered in blood." I don't know if you want to do that. But she just says in response, "Those hands of yours are the reason that this child has a future." And she holds him up so that he can lean in and give her a hug, and Yor hugs him back. And it's very, very cute. Then she says to Yor, "I know that this might not be possible for you, and maybe I should just butt out, but I want you to know that I'll be praying for you and your family to find peace and happiness." Their job is done, and Mr. Man's like, "All right, yep, we'll wait for the retrieval team, but we've got to keep an eye out." He notices that Yor is looking wistful, I guess is the word for it. And he just says, "Hey, stop getting sentimental. Remember who you are. We're foot soldiers." And that's it. But then he pauses and says, "Oh, and I forgot to relay a message to you. The Forgers are requesting that you meet them at tomorrow's port of call." And Yor's like, "Oh, but the mission," and McMahon just says, "I'll watch out for any other killers. Go do what they say. Consider it a reward for completing your mission. And clean yourself up so they don't notice that you've been in a fight with literally 50 assassins." Lloyd goes to the kids' room to pick up Anya. She's passed out asleep after the big, busy day that she's had. And Lloyd says, "Oh, well, I had a crisis to resolve, but I still ended up abandoning my family." And he's like, "Oh, no, wait, that's my thing. I'm supposed to do that. Or am I? The family's part of the mission. I don't know what to do." So, allow that, Lloyd. He still hasn't figured it out.
Yeah, he's a little dense. For all the good traits he has some dumb ones.
That's right. He is a very clever man, but he just doesn't understand this whole emotional intelligence thing. This is a nice little chapter, a nice resolution to all of the big plot elements going on. Maybe we'll see a bit of wrap up next time. I think we do tend to get that in some of the longer arcs from Spy Family. But it was nice to see everything kind of come together in the end.
Yeah, and we would be remiss if we didn't mention that it was just announced that Spy Family is getting an anime. So look forward to that. And I think it's going to be a very sweet anime. I think we're going to see a lot of people really dig it. Although I said that about the Promised Neverland, and then things went drastically the wrong way. So who knows?
Well, at the time we heard that there was going to be an anime for the Promised Neverland, we still had hopes. So
yeah, this is a good chapter though, and I'm looking forward to seeing the anime come out and a lot more people getting into it.
Absolutely.
Now there is some troubling news though. We do have to get to.
What's that?
We had to talk about the fact that we were supposed to get 2 chapters of World Trigger this month. Instead, we did not get those. Unfortunately, we just got released a design pitch, essentially, for an XCOM game, I think, of World Trigger. It's not an actual physical regular chapter. It's just details about how a video game would work.
Yeah, it's really interesting the way that it's discussed as if the characters in the series are going to play it. But no Shonen Jump manga would ever do something so overly complex
certainly
and give action and interesting elements.
Certainly, no manga that already has issues coming out and having pacing difficulties would spend a month's worth of chapters explaining how you can fucking maneuver your character on a plane to toggle their frame of vision.
Also, this is done in a hex map, which is bullshit because everyone. If you want to know that you're in a fucking nerdy ass game, are there hexes on the map? Yes, it's a nerdy game.
Yeah.
I don't care if it makes more sense than squares. It's a nerdy game.
I'd like to argue with you, but I have yet to play a game that uses hexes that isn't monumentally nerdier than everything else I've played. Like Gloomhaven uses hexes. Great game. But man, it is a much nerdier game than a lot of other stuff.
This way is much more efficient. I know, you nerd.
Yeah, tell it to me later. Tell it to me walking, nerd. And then you punt their stuff out your window.
So, Chapter 214, the Away Mission Test, Part 12. They go over in painstaking, excruciating detail how these battle games work. Half this chapter is this is how you move. You have half the chapter. This entire chapter is
both chapters. Both chapters are pretty much just explaining the rules of how this thing works.
Look at this arc of vision, and you can assign points for this. And when when you meet eyes like in Pokemon, you have to battle. And that takes action tokens, and you have only so many action tokens, so you have more action tokens, and you have an advantage. But if you are moving and you meet someone in the middle of your movement, you have to battle, and then you continue moving.
And depending on what weapons you have, you might have different action points allotments.
And each different character has a special quirk to them that allows them to handle different triggers more efficiently than others. And
you have one field of vision and a back field of vision, a subfield rather. He's like, I can't. I get it. I just tell me who wins. I get that it's actually supposed to be a cool thing because Osamu actually feels like he's going to be useful in this because he gets it. But I just tell me he did well. I don't.
If the point of this chapter was to get us to relate to Katori, then congratulations, you've done it, because she's just like, this whole thing is bullshit.
I hate this stupid game.
And she keeps on going, it's like, if this were a real thing, I would have pounced onto Mikumo's ass and killed him by now. It's like, yeah, but you don't happen to, but see your movement is like, no, I'm faster than him, this is bullshit. And she just says, like, this is a really badly designed game. And everyone has to point out, like, this isn't meant to be a game. It's meant to be a test. It's just like, grr. So, I mean, it's kind of like, it works in the sense that you totally fully understand why Katori hates this. And also that means that the test is doing its job.
Yeah. I would say the easiest way I can explain it is this is perhaps just not the way I meant to learn things. It's like when somebody's like, hey, you want to try this new game? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And they're like, here's the rule book for it. I'm just like, there's got to be a better way.
So we get Osamu establishing after they play a practice round that he thinks that he can actually be useful in this kind of combat, despite the fact that his unit is not going to have very great stats because there's going to be more of a focus on positioning and strategy than usual. And so despite the fact that he will have those inferior stats, like he was discussing before with Miwa, yeah, he's going to be okay. So also Yuma thinks that he's going to be good at this game. So, we also see Ninamiya's squad planning stuff, which of course is the squad that Chika is in, and Ninamiya is like, this game is too boring for me to give you orders, so you guys just do what you want.
Yeah, just whatever.
Then they go over the backup units, which we saw, the very briefly at the end of the last set of chapters, and they bring up, well, we should use an attacker because, we got a lot of snipers in our squad. So how about we use Tachikawa? And Ninamiya's being like, no, not Tachikawa. My squad has no need of him. So meanwhile, Tachikawa is watching this and he's like, I need to be loses points.
I do love Tachikawa being like, well, loses points. Like, yeah, I mean, you gotta kind of expect that.
They start to look up stuff while they're in Wakamura's squad, which Hughes belongs to. And while Hughes is like, what's this say? They realize that the computer he's using has text-to-voice chat capabilities. And they're like, oh, why couldn't we just have been using this the entire time? So that's established. We cut back over to Suicide Squad again. Hey, Katori's frustrated, and she thinks that this game is bullshit, and the way that everything kind of is ordered in terms of movement and attacking. And they're like, yeah, we're going to have to learn a lot of rules and learn them on the fly. It's going to be kind of frustrating, and we're just going to have to learn. Also, they're going to basically have to play every other team every day. And the last day is worth more points than the first day. It gets worth more and more and more to win. So, like, I guess what they're testing, they're basically rewarding us for doing better as we learn the system more. So it's okay if we lose the first few matchups because it's not worth as many points as later on down the week. So it's also a learning exercise on top of everything else. Then we cut to Mizukami's squad, which has no characters that we care about.
You're not wrong.
Basically they're all going like, hey, we're doing really good on the universal assignments. And Mizukami's like, everyone shut the fuck up. I'm not. He's trying to focus on this. And then they have to jump into their first matchup, which appears to be Suicide Squad versus Mizukami's squad. So I guess that's the actual reason we jumped over to Mizukami's squad, was to establish them as the first opponents.
Is he the one who didn't give the rest of his group details about this?
Yes.
So part of me is wondering if he's just going to do the battles himself. And that's what he's establishing. Like, oh, you guys.
Oh, that's why the headsets are sitting there.
Yeah, like I think that's the implication, is he's just going to do it himself.
So he's basically going off and saying he's going to study and do tough stuff by himself when really he's playing video games. That's the most real world teenager thing I can think of. So congratulations, World Trigger. Oh yeah, I'm going to do homework.
Yeah. So we'll see how it goes. I don't know what to say about these chapters. There's like 2 or 3 character bits in it, and then otherwise is explaining the rules of this game. And I swear to God, if like a fucking alien shows up and ends this, I'm just like, it's gonna be like fucking learning the rules of the fucking New Pork City auction all over again. I'm just like, God damn it!
What was the point?
Why did I sit there? Why did I spend so much time learning these fucking rules?
I'm torn because I want to get these simulation battles out of the way as soon as possible, unless they turn out to be way more interesting than predicted. But at the same time, we've spent so much time explaining them. So if we don't have any sort of payoff, then what's the point?
All right,
I did
Nick.
kind of finally reach a breaking point with World Trigger's weird pacing this entire year this month, though. So,
it'll be great when we get to the point of at the end of the year or at the start of next year being like, Nick, where was World Trigger at the start of last year? Like, I don't know, in the fucking second round of the draft, I think. Like, it's not actually that long ago.
Yeah. All right.
Nick, let's talk about Eden Zero.
Let's do that.
Eden Zero, Chapter 166, I Love You, which is a promising chapter title. Certainly is going to relate to something weird by the end of it, that's for certain.
Well, it relates to one weird thing and one thing that it should have been the only thing that it refers to, honestly.
So last time, Ziggy halted the entire Eden Zero ship. It's basically leave them stuck as this sector is destroyed by the explosion. And Witch is like, don't worry, everybody, I will protect the ship. And she teleports away. But before we could do that, we cut over to Nero 66, where Shura is laying defeated against the table, and Juno's butt shows up and says, "Here you are, Shura." And she walks up, and immediately Shura's like, "What? You didn't escape with everybody else? Planet's gonna blow up." And she gives like a cold, steely gaze. He's like, "Oh, of course. You came so you could kill me yourself. I figured it out ages ago. I know why I took a liking to you and why you were so attached to me. It was your ether gear. And she says, I don't know when I obtained the ether gear. I must have gained the power to defend myself, which is a weird implication. And then her butt says, but it never worked on you. Apparently my powers don't work on targets who have never known love. What I mean is, my love for you was one-sided. And Shura's like, no, but I... And she grabs him tenderly across the cheek and says, I know, and embraces him and says, the spark of love has kindled inside of you. It's kindled for me too. The false love I had for you eventually turned real. And Shura starts crying, saying, no, I'm a monster. And Ijuna says, I have some screws loose just like you do. I'm crazy too. You killed my family, my friends. You put me through a nightmare. Didn't mention the bomb up the butt in this scene, but I'm garbage enough to truly love you. And Shura cries, saying, Ijuna, and she says, there is someone who loves you and someone you love in return. Those aren't the tears of a monster. They come from a human heart. And then the planet explodes, and hopefully they're dead.
We'll circle back to this part.
Okay. We'll carry on here. So we cut back over to the Eden Zero. The blast is coming for them. Witch is staying atop the ship, and she's like, in the name of the Demon King's 4 shining stars, I, the Shield of Edens, will bow to protect this ship. And she shields it. And everyone's like, no, what are you doing? You're going to die. She's using the shield against such a powerful blast. The toll will be so heavy. Couchpo says, oh, my poor witch. And it's really bad. And it looks like things are going rough. And Witch sees, starts thinking, oh, Demon Lord. And we get a flashback to when baby Shiki was on board. And Ziggy said, you look so dignified with the baby in his arms. Like you're his mother. And Witch says, his mother, my lord? And it's like, oh, yeah. So Hermit's like, yeah, I guess that makes me the big sister. And Sister's like, what am I? The mistress? And we don't find out what Valkyrie thinks of herself because she's dead and she's worthless to this character plot line right now. Then Hermit adds, Ziggy, we should make an add-on for Witch so she can produce breast milk. And Ziggy says, that's a brilliant idea. And
is this the canonical explanation for why Witch's boobs were squishable by Shura?
Perhaps.
What amazing world building.
And little baby Shiki's laughing. And they're all like, oh yeah, I'm gonna teach him swords when he gets older. He's so powerful. And Witch is like, not to worry. No matter what happens, I will always protect you. So we cut back to the present where Witch is definitely about to die. And she's like, I promised that I would protect you, and I'm sorry, but I don't think it'll keep that much longer. Shiki's crying. He's like, no, you're not allowed to die. You have to live. That's an order. And she says, that is the first and last time I ever disobey an order. I am so happy to be with all of you, and the paths you take, if you work together, friendship speech. I'm dying now. Kaboom! And she dies.
After she says, I love you in a big old 2-page spread while she's like crying and smiling at the same time. And then she seemingly disintegrates.
Yes.
So let's talk about this in 2 waves, I think.
Okay.
Let's start from the end. So this is obviously the single thing I can remember Witch like ever having done.
Yes.
Which is very unfortunate because it's the last thing presumably she's ever going to do. Again, it's kind of hard to accept that there are ever permanent consequences in Eden Zero because we have a character who can jump between timelines willy-nilly and avoid the worst timeline. Now, if the consequences of this moment have to be accepted, then okay. I think that there are parts of this that don't work, but hey, if you have this character legit make this heroic sacrifice to save everyone that she cares about, and you stick with it, okay. I still think that there are ways it could be improved upon, mostly by, having Witch be a more important character to this point. Like, have her do things that match her station.
Now,
But
Nick, I feel like you're forgetting when she did bathtub bondage training with Lucy or Rebecca to help her train her
see,
powers.
I was going to say that was the only thing I could remember her doing, but I legitimately was like, was that her or was that sister? I can't remember. Because the the three of them, Sister Witch and Hermit, have all been used sexually in different ways, and the only reason I can distinguish Hermit's sexual things from them is because she's like the lowly kind of one, and they're the
she's
ones
the
that
Wendy.
Right. So that's the only way that I can distinguish between which bits of fan service they're responsible for. Also, that Sister does the BDSM stuff. So, anyway, I think that if Witch had been a character that actually, like, you know, did things, then this would hit harder. That said, if Hero is actually capable of having a character make a heroic sacrifice and it's sticking, then okay, credit there, because he always does this thing where it's like, I'm so proud of you. Oh, I got saved. And no one dies, no consequences. If he is legitimately trying to, like, I want to do a somewhat darker story and have people die and have consequences, cool. Now, for the other thing.
You got the easy part out of the way.
Now the stuff with Witch makes me kind of have some sense of conflict in the, do I want this to just get erased from existence kind of thing by Rebecca's very convenient reality altering time jumping powers. Because I think that there are some interesting things that can be done if you have the team having to pick themselves up again after losing one of their own, and it hitting a bit differently because, you know, Valkyrie was someone who died in the past. This is someone we actually saw die in front of us. Unfortunately, which doesn't really have a bond that is nearly as powerful as the one that Homura and Valkyrie had, despite the fact that they established, oh, she's the mom, she's the mom, she's the mom, she's the mom. She's gonna die. Keep on saying she's the mom, she's the mom.
It's so you can also retroactively turn all of her fetish stuff into MILF fetish stuff as well.
Shh, no, don't stop. That was implicit already. Come on. So, but if there is going to be one thing that makes me go, oh man, I hope that Rebecca uses her time jumping powers so that we avoid this timeline, it is the one where it turns out that actually the guy who tortured this woman and stuffed a bomb up her butt and sexually humiliated her, she actually did fall in love with him. And literally would rather die by this man's side than escape and get on with her life while he dies like an asshole. And it turns out, no, he had a heart too, despite the fact he wanted to literally commit genocide.
Mm-hmm.
So this is bad. And it literally reads to me as the bad ending in the video game. Then it tells you, you made the wrong choice. Go back and do another one,
yeah. Look, I read this chapter on Monday and immediately started talking about it in our Discord, which you go should check out, everybody. It's a good place.
Yes.
And my thoughts are pretty clear. This is super gross. This is really, really bad. I hate this. I hate this. I hate this. There are multiple reasons why I really, really dislike so much of this chapter. One is just obviously the very unfortunate implication of trying to create a troubled romance between Ajuna and Shura, which I understand that sometimes that's like just a trope, you know, Joker and Harley, and I know there's more examples than just that, but it's the one that immediately comes to mind. You know, problematic relationships that can be glossed over. Now, both of these characters are dead here. Now, as you said, this series can go anywhere, any place, anytime, really. So maybe these characters show up again in a different way. But as it is right here, these two characters, these two individuals are dying. So this is the last image we're left on. There's nothing about this that really paints the problematic aspect as a gross thing or a bad thing. In fact, it's painted with the same kind of romantic almost lens of sister or witch rather sacrificing herself. That this is a good thing that's happening. That these two crazy kids have found each other. And maybe, just maybe, Nick, if things had worked out differently, maybe they could have been a real couple. Because at the end of the day, despite the fact that Shura, in pretty much every scene he was ever in, was him murdering people, usually women, almost exclusively women for the most part, or killing all robots, or talking about torturing people, or killing Saika, one of his members of his group, or talking about murdering his parents, or any of the constant things he's ever done, gets a happy-esque ending where he is given the comfort of, you're not a monster. You have a human heart. You just never knew love. And it's like, no part of this works. No part of this is enjoyable. No part of this is nice. And then it is paired alongside with a direct kind of comparison. The chapter's called I Love You, and these are the two things in it. You are meant to connect this happening with Witch's death. Witch is a character who, in this arc, was kidnapped, sexually abused, rescued, and then died. And it's a gross way to end that character as well. Even though she gets her sweet little heroic sacrifice moment and, oh, I was the mom of the crew, it's a sad moment when you recognize, oh, that's what happened. And the person who did that to her got called a human in his last moments. It's a really, really gross implication that kind of follows alongside that.
Yeah, the fact that he is for some reason absolved in this moment because there was a person who cared about him. There are problems with Ijuna choosing to go and be with Shura, even if it means her own death, if she can be with him, in and of itself. But yeah, like you were saying, the fact that it is in no way portrayed as a bad thing that has happened is the real problem. Like, this was apparently just as heart-moving a moment as Witch, whom we've always seen, it's not been perfect, but she has always actually like gotten along and been cared for and been cared for by all the people she's sacrificing herself for. And it's been portrayed as a positive relationship. But we have heard in great detail all the things that happened between Shura and Ijuna, and her being okay with them was directly called messed up by the series and a bad thing that she needed to be rescued from or needed to wake up from, and she didn't. And now that's a good thing. It's inconsistent and problematic.
And I have an issue, just like, because after people mentioned it, now I have to start reanalyzing Eden Zero through a different lens. When people are like, this is Hero's attempt to tell a darker story. And it's like, I call bullshit every time I hear that, because this is not a darker story. If this was a darker story, Ijuna would have showed up and have sacrificed her chance to live just so she could have fucking seen the light go out in his eyes or something. She would have gone there. Or if you were going to do this, you paint her face visually in such a distorted light to be like, oh, she's broken. She's beyond, like, she was fucking damaged, like, far beyond it. And this is a sad thing that she is not able to recover enough. She wasn't able to be saved by Laguna. This is a bad thing, as opposed to this thing which is like, no, you still have a human heart, sure. Like, fuck off. All right. It's also
he gets told that he's a good boy now because he did.
You weren't loved as a child.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
It's bad. It's bad. It is
really
the worst thing that's happened in Eden Zero. and there wasn't even anything sexual about it.
Yeah. Turns out Hero's just a hack on top of writing fetish material constantly.
All right. It's okay. We're going to turn things around now.
I forgot we're fucking back to back in this shit.
The Hunters Guild, Red Hood, number 17, Holograms.
Wait, is that the name of the
Holograms. So Cinderella basically just reiterates what the issues that are at stake here, which is the mayor wants to destroy the entire goddamn world, and so she actually takes her hat off and bows deeply to Debonair and to Grimm, saying, look, I'm so on my pride here to ask you, please stop him. you guys can do it because you have access to where the book is kept. The red list doesn't know where that is. And look, if you want to kill me, do it. I know that I deserve to die at this point, but if it'll get you to just save the world, go and stop him. And Debonair says, lift your head. And she grabs Cinderella's head between her hands and forcefully kisses her on the lips. And Cinderella, of course, is shocked by this, and we cut over to Grimm for one brief moment just for her to say, why? Which I feel like was my reaction too.
I screenshot that because I was like, this this image is gonna come in handy as a reaction.
Oh yeah, this will far outlive Hunter's Guild Red Hood.
Why?
We'll keep you going, little Grimm. So Cinderella is immediately grossed out by this and starts going, bah, 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 bah. And Debonair also goes, bah, but she says, I'm not going to kill you, but I'm not letting you go of my grudge either. So I did something I knew you'd absolutely hate. Judging by the way that our Discord server has reacted to Debonair Diamond, I feel like you were really rolling the dice on her hating that. But essentially she's like, no, I'm gonna kill you because that's not suitable punishment for you. All right. Don't know why you kissed her, but okay. So
it's so people could write fan fiction off that moment where, imagine, Nick, you're creating a new genre of fan fiction. It's probably already a genre, but our world is literally fucking exploding at the seams. I have nothing else to do but just wantonly express emotional intimacy with someone next to me. There have got to be genres of fan fiction written by that. Like fucking Misty just looks over and she's like, Erica, I know we've never spoken before, but Missing No is blotting out the sky and destroying all reality around us.
Erica, I was like, is he talking about Pokemon? He is!
Yeah. What, fuck it, just give me the lips, sister.
Erica, criminally underutilized gym leader. I loved her aesthetic. Anyway, so.
Okay.
So Debonair says that they're going to HQ. And says that Cinderella's got to help them. To which Cinderella goes, no, do it, die. So, okay, I think that I understand why she was grossed out. It's because they're like, all these people are children, so they think that any form of intimacy is gross. So.
Yeah.
It turns out that Big Joe Bonkers and Tilty and Milty and Melio and Portion, all of them are listening at the door. So immediately they're like, well, we should go to HQ and help. And Big Joe says, fellow, save me from my own darkness, even though I didn't ask. Now it's my turn to meddle in his life. And Tilty says, I've always been hesitant to trust others, but yeah, me too. So, and the business guy is also like, I'll help too. And everyone's like, he's got to have other reasons he's doing this. It's like, oh, I mean, in the words of Megavolt, if he destroys the world, there will be nothing left to rob. He has a reason to save the world too, guys. So, Velo, meanwhile, is talking with the Elite Red Hood, and he's really upset with the bedtime story now, even though he's still in the bed. And he says, how can you do such a thing? Of, them writing reality and writing, warding tales and stuff and fairy tales with monsters and everything. And the Elite Red Hood says, for the sake of the world, stop saying that. Answer the question. So Velo brings up very directly, why don't you just write, humanity eradicated the werewolves? That would solve everything. And phone answer guy says, oh, we tried that multiple times. But we failed every time. A parasitic outbreak, cataclysmic disasters, an all-powerful magical spell, nuclear warfare, 7 attempts were made.
One time I spelled werewolves as bear wolves. Oh, the problems caused that day.
Oh, it was amazing. Oh my gosh.
Wolf wang everywhere.
The screams will live in my nightmares for all eternity.
But the moans will live on in my dreams for the rest of my days.
Werewolves. Anyway, each one not just in failure, but in the eradication of the human race. See, every human carries the potential to become a werewolf in their genes. No, not those genes, like genes in your DNA. Those genes.
And then one time I wrote that as beans. And everyone had to wear beans everywhere. Oh boy, I should really learn to spell and write.
Very slimy. Oh man, if only I had passed that typing test my parents gave me as a kid. Mario, he just didn't like the way that he was telling me to do stuff.
I don't like Italians. It's always been my problem. I hate their seasoning, I hate their meatball, I hate their plumbers.
So one time I spelled Italians as Fatalians. That was on purpose.
One time I changed the world, it just became hard-boiled cop and dolphin, so that one was a failure. I had to start that one all over again.
So then I wrote The Last Sayuki, and that didn't work out either.
That one I thought should have kept going, but apparently did not.
Anyway, so because werewolves, all humans can potentially become werewolves. Werewolves are very difficult to get rid of. We're two sides of the same coin. So if you just eliminate werewolves, you eliminate humanity, and as long as humanity exists, werewolves can't disappear. That's the way the story has been set. Each time we fail, a new humanity is deployed, and they begin a new battle against monsters. And Villa's like, wait, you make it sound like there's some sort of god involved. Who would create a world like... And the Elite Red Hood says, exactly. The Readers. That's right, You're doing this.
You're the problem.
They exist far above us. Or perhaps far below us. Or far to the sides. Look, I want to tell you something. Red Hood and everyone in it. When people say that God exists far above us, yes, heaven supposedly exists in the sky. But if you go up, you don't just reach heaven. It doesn't matter what direction it's in. Why do you have to? Maybe that's to the. You just brought up that the people reading the manga are the gods of this world. You want to focus on that a little
Maybe
bit?
they're in the Northeast.
Maybe they're inside of us.
In a way, they're closer. They're kind of like directly parallel to us, but on the other side.
Like watching fish in a fishbowl. Okay.
But if you were looking at it from the bottom, wouldn't there be a table in the way? No, that's right. Can't catch us there then, can ya?
Cinderella and Debonair are flying towards the secret headquarters. Cinderella is carrying Grim, who is sleeping, and she's like, why are we bringing Grim? And Debonair says, 'cause she'll be helpful.
Duh.
So obvious. And Cinderella says, are you serious? Her character setup has been so eroded, she's a husk of her old self. How do you measure that?
It's so amusing because I understand it's all just narrative at this point, but it's so hard not to have it just be like, yeah, that is, I guess, what her character is. But to be frank, her character arc before this has a giant rack. So I don't know. I guess technically it's been eroded.
Hey. She had a butt too.
That is, you know what? To be fair.
Debonair is like, there's no doors to the Scrivener's room. The only way in or out is by warping. And the West Side Island doesn't have any underground chambers. It'll be in the pain in the butt, but we'll make ourselves a door there. So she unleashes a bunch of heat and then says, Cinderella, use your magic to focus my heat. And Cinderella says, I can't. The heat's too intense. And Debonair says, just do it. So she does. And they make a laser from Debonair's heat. And it blows a hole in the headquarters and it starts to, like, collapse. And then we cut back to the Elite Red Hood, who says, the Readers! That's the name we give to the ones who created the framework of this world and filled in the book's earliest pages. That's not what readers do.
Well, I don't know if it's now or later, but we do have to also address this meta commentary of the readers are the gods who only want action and violence in this world. It's like, nah, dog. That's editorial that decides if your series needs to be more exciting. You could have been a fucking Blue Box doesn't have people getting fucking massacred and towns getting fucking eviscerated, and that's one of my favorite series in this magazine.
You know, yeah. To kind of jump ahead a little bit, yes, the point that Red Hood is making is bizarrely meta commentary on its own sudden conclusion. As in, the mayor is trying to suddenly stop the story the same way that Red Hood is suddenly stopping because it's getting canceled. And the idea here is that, oh, well, see, the reason we can't solve everything is because that wouldn't be entertaining to the readers. It's not fun if everything is resolved so easily. We've got to have these violent conflicts go on forever.
And I'm like, I don't know, dog. Dr. Stone fucking invented like solar panels last week. I think you can just do whatever you want.
Are you aware of how many fanfics involved, and then everything was solved, and my most attractive preferred characters had sex with each other? And you have so many of those in your story.
Yeah, Big Joe Bonkers has an entire universe of people we could be banging right now. The Big Joe Bonkers Bangiverse. That's like they call it.
Anyway, you're just a puppy is the story that is going on with the Elite Red Hood. And then, for some reason, Velo doesn't get the idea that the world is a stage and our battles against monsters are entertainment. He's confused by this. So the Elite Red Hood says, let me explain things in simpler terms, using a more complex metaphor for what's going on. See, oh, did your Hamlet have festivals honoring the gods, like ritual dances or plays or prayers that you offered up to them? And Velo's like, well, yeah, we had songs dedicated to the gods for like the summer solstice. Yeah, that's what we're doing. We're performing a ritual to appease higher beings. Okay, but the first example was so much easier to understand. What do you think happens if the ritual performed for the gods isn't good enough? The purpose of the book is to entertain the readers. It isn't fun if the story's resolved too easily. If you displease the gods, they render judgment on us by not ranking us high in the reader response polls and not buying our volumes.
It's your fault, Sakamoto Days. If you weren't so fucking engaging, I could have survived.
So we have to have like engaging stories, which means bad shit happening to people and conflict and all that stuff. And we were going to have a lycanthrope virus. It was going to be really cool, and it would be a roundabout way of solving everything, but we figured it would actually work. And you, Mayor Ludwig, you want to mess everything up. It's your fault we're getting canceled. Just like it's Barry Corbin's fault that Raw's ratings are in the toilet. The mayor is like, the moment we ever took up this book is the moment we failed. What point is there to a world whose sole purpose is to create tragedies that live up to the expectations of merciless gods? Let's just end it. Not a happy ending, not a tragic ending, just an end to everything. The end. That's the end of the chapter. We're done.
It's gone. No, it's technically a little bit more.
Debonair is invading, so the mayor's like, I'm going to use my reality-altering powers to put us in another place. Here's a cube. Don't get in our way. I'm going to go fight Debonair with my reality-altering powers now. Boop. How much longer can this series possibly last? We're on chapter 17.
Well, next chapter, to give you the answer. Next chapter is when it ends.
How? Like, is it literally just going to be like, boop?
Yeah, they're going to bonk the mayor on the back of the head and be like, but what if some stories are good? And then it ends.
God. So I guess the mayor's gonna get his wish then.
I guess.
Not a happy ending, not a tragic ending, just an end.
Well, no, these characters are going to keep on going because the end is going to, I imagine, promise the idea that we're going to have some more adventures for Big Joe Bonkers in the future. Only him. I don't know about the rest of the characters, but Big Joe Bonkers has a future.
The embroiling adventures of Big Joe Bonkers.
Hell yeah. All right. I don't. Yeah, the series is ending, and it's a fucking colossal train wreck of an ending, and I'm loving every second of it. It's so hard not to just enjoy this. Like, I try not to be cynical and mean about it because this is someone's art that is being ended, and that there is like an unfortunate level to that. But there's also just this level of like, we read this as like a pastime for over a decade now, so we've seen a lot of these series end, and it's always kind of exciting when they don't go out with a whimper, but instead they go screaming off and like, "Fuck you! It's your fault! It's yours!" Like, I really just wanted the last page of this series to be like the panels fraying and it's Velo just looking at the camera, being like, "You're the reason this is happening. You."
It's gonna be like Doctor Strange in that one What If.
Yeah.
Except, angry instead of sad. But anyway, so let's move on to Magu-chan God of Destruction. It's chapter 65, The Mysterious Successor. To jump ahead, we are introduced in this chapter to Izuma's little sister, Seira Kisaragi, who is also part of the Order of Holy Knights. We get some stuff leading up to that because she's in disguise at the school, and she's there to find out why her brother is being weird and not fighting Chaos Gods, and apparently the Holy Knights don't believe the reports that Uneras is sending back. Okay, so, but we first see this, she's in disguise, she's just this girl who has, like, twin tails, but it's black hair, so it doesn't look too unusual. She's also got the wrong school uniform on, but she's doing centrifuge. She's in disguise. No one will be able to tell she's not completely normal. Rue's immediately like, yeah, she looks like she's wearing the wrong kind of uniform to go to our school. Oh well. She Sarah expresses interest in the occult club. So Rue's like, oh good, I could recruit a new member. Awesome. And Sarah says, by the way, what kind of stuff do you do at the Occult Research Club? And Ruru immediately is like, it's basically like a petting zoo with chaos gods now. Yeah, we play with weird creatures, I guess. But, it's a really chill club. It's a nice place to hang out. You can call me Ruru. What's your name? Sarah's vanished because she recognized Ruru Miyagi's name. Da-da-da. Then we get to my favorite moment of the chapter, which is Magu playing against Izuma and Othello, and somehow Izuma has one white tile on the entire board, and Magu has filled up everything else in black. So he's saying, "I have plunged all the world in darkness except your defeats." So Izuma says, "No matter the situation, I will fight to the end. I will not give up when I still have a chance." So he captures one tile, and Magu immediately captures two back and takes the entire board. We get some establishment that Komi has been making more posters for the club, and she says, "I figured I would stop hiding my hobby since we're going to be graduating, and like all the memories we've been building up here are going to be lost. So, I figured it would be good if we had someone take over the club for us. Isn't that nice?" They also kind of established that, like, hey, it's interesting how, like, a few characters are a bit different. Izuma is, really part of the gang when he was just trying to fight everyone before. Now we just beat him at child's games. So that's cool. Then Ruru brings up, oh, I met this girl who's kind of interested in our club. She kind of reminded me of Izuma, and immediately Sarah's like, I've been exposed! It comes out of her hiding spot and lands superhero style on the table and sends the board scattering everywhere. I can't believe you figured out my identity so quickly, and just immediately reveals herself, She does the magical girl transformation into her true form, which basically means she puts on a robe and her hair is mostly light colored with some black bits at the tips. And she establishes, like, you guys aren't doing your jobs. But immediately everyone's like, check out this cute little kohai we have to, give, like, pudding to and stuff. And Sarah's trying to be like, don't distract me! I'm going to protect the world from the Chaos Gods, and I'm going to tell everyone that you're just messing around and not doing anything. And then Izuma says, listen, Sarah, I owe this girl Ruru my life, and I'm fulfilling my duties by monitoring everyone here. So, look, there's Mag Manuak. And Magu says, indeed.
That is the best two panel of indeed.
And of course, Sarah's like, what the hell? This is the god of destruction? And Magu says, successor of magic, you tread upon my sacred land. Inscribe your name in the book of blood oaths and accept me as your... Unperturbed by another member of the Holy Knights showing up. And meanwhile, Naputaku is just like, please, an Othello! And Sarah is just kind of grossed out and thinks everything is super bizarre. There's hermit crabs here. There are little chaos gods here. So she reveals her own rankless being, Ninitsi, who can form astral gates and teleport her to and from places. Then she escapes and says, parting to Izuma, go back to be my tough, cool big brother, and then vanishes. So people are like, well, I guess there's more trouble being caused. And Uneras is like, I guess people don't believe the reports I've been sending. And Sarah, meanwhile, has to deal with the fact that she has, teleported in front of an entire hallway full of students who have seen her looking like a magical knight person. So, new character in Magu-chan. Plays into the little sister character kind of thing. Oh, my big brother, I've got to get him to, be right. But I think we saw enough parts of her personality that she does not completely fall prey to the stereotypical tropes that make up that kind of character. So it's all right.
I saw people in our Discord kind of joking or predicting, like, Chris is going to hate this character because this is the character archetype that tends to be really annoying and insufferable in these series. But I think you guys have to realize Uneras has taken that crown so hard that I was like, cool, a character who's not Uneras talking and saying things that isn't Uneras saying things. And I gave it a rousing thumbs up. I hope she shows up more often. Because every spot she occupies is physically a space Uneras cannot.
The more characters that show up at Magu-chan.
Yes.
I honestly do think that, like, yeah, she could be annoying. We have seen characters like this of like, oh, it's the little sister who's going to just be upset that a character has experienced character development over the course of the series. But there is enough to her beyond that it doesn't seem like it's going to get grating anytime soon.
Yeah.
So
she's no Haru Onodera.
Or Kirisu's little sister.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Mifu, something like that. All right. Dr. Stone! Sounding at Stone, Nick!
Hello, world! That's the name of the chapter. Z equals 216. More rockets have been blowing up. Who knows how long has passed at this point. Eventually, we're going to be introduced to a new couple's children. And that's just going to be the only way we'll be able to tell how much time has passed.
Did they say? I thought for some reason they said 3 years at some point, but I think that may just be how long it took them to do the one engine. That might have just been last week too. I'm thinking of.
I don't know. I know that months have passed in between attempts because we saw calendars flipping over, but that's about it. It's pretty nebulous. And apparently, Chrome says all this trial and error, so many tests, just as many failures over years and years. So that's a while. And again, no one has aged. So, meanwhile, Suika and Chroma are, of course, trying to figure out how to not just have a rocket take off to the moon, but also have a return shuttle that they can get everyone back safely. And Suika's like, we got to learn more and more. And Chrome's like, dang, the path of the science user has been this way ever since we met Senku. The more we learn, the more we realize how little we really know. And he plants the flag of the King of Science on the tower that presumably it was already on top of. Whatever.
Yeah.
Eventually, a rocket takes off that successfully launches a satellite into space. Hooray! And they established that the first satellite they're launching is just a recon satellite. And from there, they can make a different satellite that will actually allow them to spy on the moon. Chroma and Suika are still thinking. And Chrome's like, man, I mean, in the Stone World, all these countless test launches had to use smaller scale rockets. Going bigger would have been unthinkable. And Suika says, but the two-way moon rocket we want to make would have to be 5 times bigger than those other ones, according to size calculations. Ooh. And Chrome seems to have a thought. It's just one of those panels where it hones in on his face as he's looking determined, and it's like, did Chrome think of something? Because we've seen him do that a bunch of times before. More tests get done. Hey, another satellite gets put up, and they can now take satellite images and stuff. Actually, no, another satellite didn't get launched, but they are using their current recon satellite to just take images of the globe, and they establish, oh, the world has physically changed over the course of thousands of years of, tectonic plates moving and all the stuff left behind by humanity blowing up and then not being there anymore. Like, their stuff is like, oh, there were nuclear sites that exploded and irradiate everything, and now it's diluted, so it's fine. Australia's bigger now because the coral reefs were allowed to grow without human pollution.
Aww.
The Panama Canal got filled in because that was a man-made canal. So, more supplies come from Spain, from India. They launch bigger satellite. It gives them a space telescope. And Kohaku's immediately like, now I'll use this screen with my powerful vision to spot Y-Man. And they're like, that's not quite how it works. But Senku says, actually, Kohaku doesn't just have really powerful vision. She's also incredibly keenly observant. So she will actually notice something. And she indeed does later on. Chrome and Suika are still putting their heads together, trying to figure things out. And now they're like, okay, we're feeling the deadline. Because as soon as they spot that Y-Man, they're going to go after him. That's like, it'll be great that we find him, but that's our countdown for actually launching our plan. How are we going to do this? More time passes. I love the panel in the montage of things happening where Kohaku is closely observing the screen while eating a big old lang of meat. And then she spots something and just takes the view screen and dashes outside while holding it, like she's Dean Ambrose fighting against Bray Wyatt in TLC, except it doesn't explode because that was a stupid thing that happened.
I like that they must have assumed this was going to be what happened, so they prepared by having a cord long enough for Kohaku to leap out of the mountainside with it to show everybody.
Yeah. They're like, you know what? This will reach the wall, but it won't reach the wall if Kohaku does a Kohaku and jumps around with it.
Let's make sure it's long enough in case she leaps out of the window with this.
So she immediately jumps outside, lands in front of Senku and Zeno, and is like, look at this. There's this one spot that's changing little by little over time. And I don't know exactly what it is, but it looks suspicious. And Zeno says, yeah, I can't identify it, but it's definitely something unnatural on the surface. Something truly elegant. We finally found you. And we get a big old full page dedicated to just this blurry spot on the screen. And Senku says, why, hello there, Y-Man. It's a cool ending to the chapter. And I do appreciate a lot of the things in this chapter as we establish, like, hey, everyone else thinks this is a good thing, but Suika and Chrome are like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? We're running out of time. And it does actually kind of, I think, help to justify the rapid pace the scientific development is being set in terms of plot pacing. We are now established that, yes, this took literally years for them to do, but it still feels like it's going by at breakneck pace because that's just the part of the story that we're in, where it's just like they're just doing this now.
Yeah. It's a cool bit of a chapter. It's just, I don't know, Dr. Stone's end game is both cool and also just not hitting for me. Like, it's kind of like very quickly brought up, like, we're gonna revive everybody now. Like, oh, okay, I guess in my mind I thought there was gonna be a little bit of a longer build up to that, but like, okay, cool, everybody's back.
Yeah, I appreciate a lot. I appreciate this as a standalone chapter, and I do like the stuff with Suika and Chrome. I've liked that since we were first introduced to that concept, and just kind of having that be like, okay, that's the thing that I'm really invested in, and we're just kind of like stuck in this point where they don't know what they're gonna do. But how this fits into the big thing of like, oh, this is where Y-Man is. All right, okay, it wasn't particularly interesting when they found him. It's like, how did they find him? We looked at him through a screen, and Kohaku saw it.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. No Mashal this week, unfortunately. So we're going to have to move right along into the Elusive Samurai.
Yeah, I can do it. It's fine. It's fine. Elusive Samurai, Chapter 38. Tumult in Shinano, 1335. So we were introduced to the three important generals by Yorishige last time, and how they were going to play a big role in Tokiyuki's attempt to take back his home. And we see that they have a conversation, and Yorishige is just immediately like, my three most trusted generals! This Chojumaru is actually the Lord Hojo's heir, Tokiyuki Hojo! And all three of them just go, oh. That's just it. So Yorishige is shocked by this. He's like, well, come on! I really wanted to see how surprised you would be.
Come on! Do it! Do the thing!
But all three of them have like different reasons for being like not so surprised by this. And I do like that right away we're kind of being established like, okay, these three aren't just going to be the three general guys. We're going to take a little bit of time to actually get to know them as individually as well. So the first one is the guy with the hawk, whose name is Yori now, and he says, look, our loyalty is to you, but if you have taken up the cause of this child, we shall obey. As in, he doesn't really care what's going on. He is laser focused. The burly guy with the the ofuda going down from his headband is named Shigenobu, and he just finds this amusing, and he's like, well, sorry for making you pour my alcohol before, because you were like a manservant in my eyes. And then there's the guy that we're getting a chapter focused on, Yukiyasu, who is older than the other two, and he's constantly squinting one of his eyes. And he's very, kind of friendly and clever with him. He says, like, hey, you must remain the apprentice Chojumaru until the moment of your reveal. So I will treat you as such in the presence of others. Okay? So, he's friendly about it, but he's also like, hey, we gotta be smart about this. So Tokiyuki's like, hey, these guys are, I've got a good impression of them now. Like they are, have a great trusting relationship with Yorishige that's clearly been established over a long time. Then we get a little bit of a reminder as we cut over to the Kokushi that he is an asshole, as he's just killing a dude and his wife just cuz, after he has already tortured them for information. And after killing this hopeless man and hopeless woman who are unarmed and in a cage, he turns to Ogasawara and says, you have instructed me well. Have my skills improved? And he's like, yes, Lord. You have literally been shooting fish in a barrel. Cool. Immediately afterwards, as the Kokushi is like, yeah, gonna go kill those guys. Immediately Ichikawa says, so how's his archery? Oh my god, he sucks so much.
He's real bad, actually. I know that shot initially made it look like he was kind of cool. He's really not. He's really not.
And we see that he is planning on actually just launching an invasion to actually subjugate all the Hojo sympathizers in the land. So he's going to bear down on everyone. And there are three forces of resistance that he's going to be dealing with in three different parts of the region. We get narration saying that this is going to be the largest preliminary skirmish before Tokiyuki's uprising in 4 months. So we're rapidly getting up to the point of like, okay, big confrontations are going to start happening now. Yorishige talks to all the elusive warriors together and says that their mission is going to be acting as Denrei, who are messengers who must race from battlefield to battlefield conveying reports, because there are these 3 different locations the battles are going to be taking part in. It's going to be essential for them to all keep in contact with each other, which will require fast messengers who will also be eluding enemy soldiers that are separating them. And of course, Tokiyuki's only reaction to this is, I have to avoid capture. That sounds hard. Calm down, boy.
Yeah, this one really amped up the Tokiyuki gets suggestively, let's say, excited at the idea of being elusive too. Oh. Okay.
So this kid's like 10 now. So if he's going through all this stuff when he is, about to reach the height of pre-adolescence, does that mean that like when he gets married later, the only way he's going to be able to sire children is if his wife chases him around for a while first? Like, is that what we're going to have to do? Chase him around with a chainsaw, I should say. It's got to be life-threatening chases. So.
All right, we're trying to conceive, so I'm gonna release the hounds, and you have to slather yourself with honey first, and at the end we copulate.
Each of the three generals is going to be acting as the leader in one of these places, and so Yorishige says you're going to visit these three areas. You're going to learn about my right hand men, and the first one that they're going to be dealing with is. As I said before, Yukiyasu. So they go out to Fukashi Fort, which he is in charge of, and Tokiyuki arrives. He is, a messenger, and this magistrate who meets him, Inukai, says, "Oh, you must be the one everyone's talking about." And Tokiyuki at first is like, "Oh, people are talking about me? Cool. Yeah, they say that you excel at escaping the shrine, and you dart around the battlefields naked."
That's a part that normally isn't there.
So, of course, Tokiyuki's upset about this. And Gemba's like, I mean, that's not too far off. So Tokiyuki wants to know how the battle is going. And Inukai says, yeah, it's kind of weird because Uno-sama's reinforcements are few in number but ferocious. They'll never let Ogasawara's army near this fort. And they say, he's a formidable presence. I wonder what he's like. He's a top general in the Suwa sect who has performed countless feats of martial prowess. He's even impressive off the battlefield. He's always dignified and composed. The shrine maidens are head over heels for him. He is kind and considerate to all. But the other warriors hinted at something more. They said, you still don't know the half of it. So, at that moment, before they can get any further information, Uno, Yukiyasu, shows up, and he addresses Tokiyuki and says, you should inform my lord that the fort shall be fine and will not fall as long as I am here. And everyone's like, he's so cool. Yeah, he's looking at him with he's polishing his sword. He looks all confident. Yeah. But at that moment, the gate is breached. And so, of course, Uno has to jump into action and repel Sadamune's forces. And he's like, okay. So the force we repelled before was just a diversion, but I'll deal with it. Tokiyuki gets worried, but he says, but Chojumaru Dono, have you ever known a woman? And Tokiyuki's like, what are you talking about?
What's happening here?
And Kojiro says, we're only 10. I mean, someday we'd like to grow up. And it was like, me neither. And Kojiro's like,
so,
Why
are you telling us this?
And Uno says, I have not known a woman either. And it's not just the things he's saying. It's the fact that he is saying this like it's the coolest thing in the world. As he finishes polishing his sword, and you see the light glinting off it, that he's not just squinting his eye, he's like missing that eye. From a battle, no doubt. But in this moment, all the elusive warriors are just staring at it with the same shocked, beady-eyed expression, like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? And Uno says, I'm defenseless to their charms. When they speak to me, my blood rises in turmoil. Even in the company of the shrine maidens, my heart pounds and my body burns. Why is he telling us this? And I use that heat in the service of Suwa Myojin. My blood boils for women, but I pour it into bellicosity backed by muscle. I burn and pour and perfect. Thus I have honed myself for decades. When a warrior of Kamakura remains pure until age 30, he becomes a lord of carnage. And all the invaders come through the gate, and he does something and cuts all of them down in one stroke. And all of the elusive warriors go from, why is he telling us this, to, again, he's so cool!
This is literally the, while you were engaged in premarital sex, I practiced the blade being brought to life. This dude is literally like, while you were having sex, I became a lord of carnage, and then he murders his way through a scene.
This reminded me, I listened to a wrestling podcast, and they occasionally do reviews of books written by wrestlers or about wrestlers. So they covered Ryback's horrible self-help book, and he talks about the benefits of abstaining from masturbation.
Just what I always wanted to hear Ryback talking about.
So he goes, if you just don't do it, then you can channel that energy to other stuff. And that was
like dropping CM Punk headfirst into a table.
It makes you good at wrestling. Except not because Ryback's shit.
Every so often, I go back to listen to like the CM Punk interview with Colt Cabana where he talks about that story, and it's played with the scene he's talking about where he's like, I don't want to fucking work with Ryback. All right, fine, I have to work with Ryback. Just for the love of God, don't drop me head first into that table. And then it cuts into him doing it. And I know I shouldn't laugh. A man was hurt there. But it's so funny the way it's staged. Like, please just don't fucking drop me head first.
Listen, I have a history of concussion issues. I'm coming back from one. Don't drop me on my fucking neck. Bong! God, he was fucking worthless in the ring. Remember when he tried to pick up Big Show and couldn't?
He has so much muscles and so little talent with them.
No, Tensai he couldn't lift.
Oh, God.
Much more embarrassing than Big Show. Oh, God. Anyway, yeah. Don't masturbate, kids. It'll make you kill people better.
Yeah. Interesting chapter. I'll say that. It is an interesting chapter.
Yeah. I don't really know how to react to it because it's so what it is. So.
Yeah. All right,
Black
Nick,
Clover.
I will take over for a little bit as we talk about Black Clover. Page 311, Make It Home Alive. So we open the chapter, Xenon and I wanted to call him or Asta. It's though. Yuno and him are clashing, and Xenon is thinking, even at our first encounter, I said something like myself and you. What made us different, as he's been slashed to half? And says, I don't know. I haven't become the Wizard King yet, so my plot point isn't done yet. And Xenon thinks about, I want to call him Wrenchman. I think that's his name. Who is like, we're going to be rivals one day. Let's see who becomes commander-in-chief. And the answer is none of them, because this character is dead, and it looks like Xenon's dead too. And suddenly,
well, we don't see him completely die, but he is falling in two halves, Darth Maul style, down a pit. And unless a sequel many years in the future comes out that reveals, no, he's alive and he's gonna appear in Obi-Wan
spider legs
movie. Hey, those were in the comics first.
I don't care where they started from; they were always stupid. I'll note that. I'm going on the record. It's my 7th most controversial Star Wars opinion.
I'm sure there aren't too many shockers up there.
Qui-Gon Jinn's the best. Everyone sucks but me. Anyway, Nature Boy Flair. I actually had to figure out who it was because I was like,
because he's in a different form.
I was like, who's this character? It's like, it looks like Yuno's defeated Xenon. So Asta's like, that means we've taken out the whole Dark Triad. And yet, why has the Quilnoff still advancing?
Whoever said that the Dark Triad consisted of 3 members?
Pretty much. They just keep coming. Something isn't right. And we cut over to Dorothy Unsworth, I think is her name.
I mean, we don't cut to her first, but yes, that is who shows up. Yes.
No, it's her. We cut it they're like, what's the matter? Well, I guess technically we cut over to
We
the
see
Wizard King.
the Wizard King first,
He's
and he's like, something big's coming.
Yeah. And then we cut over to Dorothy Unsworth, who I guess lost. Dream magic, quite strong. It would be if the devil's power hadn't made my magic capable of infecting intangible concepts. And it's Morris, I believe? The evil doctor. Now he's been infested with Lucifero. And then Lotus, I believe is his name, has lost an arm. And that may or may not be significant depending on the things he has been pre-established to do. I presume he uses both hands, but I do not know. This character is still a mystery to me.
He's been around for a long time. It's just that he doesn't show up very often.
Yeah, and he falls in that time period where I don't remember very many things about Black Clover. So I'm like, no, this isn't the light novel guy, but he's not far off in importance than the light novel guy. They're on a very similar spectrum.
I believe he showed up at like no, that was Mars. Never mind. So, well, maybe Lotus did show up there too.
That I think he showed up in this whenever they went into the dungeon.
Yeah.
Supposedly,
where Asta got his first sword for no reason.
Yeah. Supposedly that is where he shows up. I don't remember it, but yeah, I believe it. Anyway, it looks like he's getting his ass handed to him. I guess he was evil, but he's not. I don't know. Anyway, Morris has Lucifero now, so we even see Lucifero being like, "You're a more reasonable fellow, unlike Dante, because he's dead. And fuck him. And Megicula has been outfoxed, but that devil made for a good lab rat. The second gate will open now. Once it does, I'll be able to emerge. And as long as we have Yami and Vengeance, the gates to the underworld will open. And this is the best seat in the house." So Morris uses his modification magic to fuse two devils together into a horrifying monster. And Lotus says, "I really loathe this. Ordinarily, I'd be making a break for this," which I presume, because that could or could not be a pre-established character trait of this character.
He did run away from fights.
Yes. There you go. But he says, "I can't run, cut and run, can't die either." And he's thinking about a bunch of people, presumably a family, which again, may or may not be a pre-established fact about this character. He could have a gimmick.
He does say, "I'll make it home alive, back to my family."
But
so it would be kind of weird if he was thinking about an entirely different family that he wasn't part of.
He's thinking about the stock family in the photo frame he bought. And he's like, "I got to make it home to them."
He's just kind of crazy. He doesn't actually have
Which could be a character trait of his. I don't know. It's equally possible.
I mean, let's be honest. Would a woman like that marry a guy with a mustache like that?
Yeah, that is a good point. It looks like Lotus is going to be killed, but suddenly we zoom in on Yami, who twitches, and then crash! It's the Black Bulls. Most specifically, it's Vanessa, Gray, Henry, Gauch, and Gordon. I remembered them all. I'm very proud of myself. Hey. They're there to hopefully stop to save Yami and stop the Quilpaffa going off.
I cannot believe that the guy that is just the fourth devil is just the guy that I was like, why are we focusing on this guy at all earlier? That's the random scientist dude. Oh, he's the real evil. We know like so little about him.
Well, I think we're going to get the actual fourth sibling that we saw teased before. This is sort of like because it is in my mind. I was like, this does seem like this like the rest of the Black Bull should do something in this arc that very well could be the final arc of this series. So it seems like this is a place for maybe those characters and hopefully Zora to show up and do something.
Well, they're allies with the Heart Kingdom. They're going to defeat the ruling class of the Spade Kingdom, and they have control of the throne of the Diamond Kingdom. So I think we're good. I think we're good.
Yeah, wrapped it all up. We got all the suits.
It is kind of an odd thing to know, like, okay, well, the three ones that we started off with have been defeated now, presumably. And while I wasn't completely happy with how some of those fights turned out, those were the ones that we had been given reason to care about. And now it's just kind of like, well, here's another one. and because now another character is going to fight them, and I don't know. I feel like there's going to have to be a lot more legwork that's going to be done for me to care about if that fourth sibling shows up.
Yeah.
Because, like, yeah, but I haven't seen them do anything so far to care about who beats them or how. So.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, Lotus showed up. Let's set sail for One Piece, chapter 1030, echoing the impermanence of all things.
A great chapter title for a chapter in which a bunch of people are confirmed to not be dead.
Yeah, pretty much. Death means nothing. So, I actually love the way that this opens, because Apu is having a confrontation with X-Drake while the numbers are looming in the background, being all big. And Apu says, "I'm guessing that you're a Navy spy, but that doesn't matter at this point."
Pretty much.
And he essentially just says, like, look, do you really want to try and fight Kaido? I mean, by the time that the battle is over, the winner's going to be a Death Store, whoever it is, and finishing off is going to be really easily. We're not actually aligned with anyone here, so why should we bother fighting each other? And X-Drake says, "Ever enough. What makes you think I would trust in you anyway?" And Apu says, "Let's not get into an argument about who's more trustworthy." That's a fucking good point.
That is true.
No, I'm actually working for the government, guys.
Like this fucking triple spy that he is at this point.
But Apu is just trying to bring up the point, like, look, I'm just telling you something that I think would be beneficial to both of us, and you're not going to get another opportunity like this. And also, I have these three big guys who are going to beat you up if you don't say yes. So
Apu is like, he saw what happened last week. He's like, this is an opportunity for me to not be the lamest member of the Supernovas. I have to take it. I can't get into a fight. I have to just try to do something different and interesting.
And unbelievably, he cleared that incredibly low bar.
Yeah.
Like, he saw it, and he didn't trip over it, and he didn't come close to tripping over it. He took a nice little hop,
yeah,
and cleared it. So, I mean, he got a little bit arrogant, but he did clear it. So.
Yes.
So, we cut then to Usopp and Nami's group, which has, Tama and Komachiyo, her big lion dog mount thing, and they are running away from one of the many fires that are inside the palace. Usopp suddenly goes, "Ah! A freakish monster!" But it turns out it's Kinemon's legs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Kinemon's legs are running around, and because it is his legs, they have to talk through his butt.
This is established to be a thing.
Not like Fairy Tail.
Yes.
But through his actual butt.
This is an established thing. Kinemon has the power of ventriloquism through his farts.
So he has to make poo puns while he's talking. Look, yes. It's just the rules, okay?
That is it. Look, when you get into ass ventriloquism, there's a couple rules you have to follow. You got to make a couple shit puns while you do it.
Also, Kinemon's body is covered in blood. It's not just like he got separated by law, although that is the reason that his legs were able to, move like this. He's covered in blood, and Usopp goes like, "Are you all right?" And Nami goes, "He can't hear you, Usopp. That would be ridiculous. His ears are over there." But Nami makes a symbol on Kinemon's thigh, and Kinemon's like, "Ah, that's the crescent moon of the rebellion. I assume you must be a commander too, a comrade too, rather." So he basically explains the situation, and Usopp goes off with Hamlet, the draft guy, and goes off in order to make a difference, because Kinemon's in trouble, and Kiku is going to die, basically, if no one does anything. Kinemon thinks to himself while his upper body is lying in the rubble after their skirmish with Kanjuro, I think I found some of our allies. I can't believe I'm alive, but all that stuff that with the law, I guess I was able to separate properly. However, at that moment, all of a sudden, he hears a voice crackling over a Mushi, and it's Orochi getting in contact with Kanjuro. And he's like, the voice of the beheaded Orochi. But Kanjuro's already dead. And Kanjuro goes, oh, what do you want? He's still alive, because nobody dies in One Piece. He's lying on the ground, and he's like, I'm gonna die soon. But Orochi says, hey, you've done well. It was a splendid act. Can you hear the audience? How they cheer for you? But alas, how galling, how vexum. Our ancestors await a proper theatrical encore, and you must give it to them, Kanjuro. Depict the burning hatred of the Kurozumi clan. Who is the true victor? The enduring anger of the Kurozumis prowls the halls of this castle, heading deeper and deeper into the depths, until at the very bottom of it all, you reach our burial crypt. Only you can lay our souls to rest. And as he says all this, Kanjuro, while still lying on the ground, takes up his brush and paints something. He paints Kazenbo, a giant ghost fire, which starts burning everything it touches and passing through everything it touches while still setting it on fire. So hey, more fire. This is okay. And everyone's freaking out about this. We cut around to a whole bunch of stuff as people are like, oh my god, giant ghost fire setting everything on fire while passing through walls. And Momonosuke, meanwhile, is still trying to build up clouds so that he will keep the island afloat, and it won't crash down on Wano. And then we just get a quick montage of a bunch of different shots because there's no time to be fighting anymore. People have got to get to safety. But of course, everyone's still got their stuff that they're doing. We see fights that are going on, and also CP0 starting to move somewhere. Or maybe they're just standing there. Who knows? So, and then we get Orochi just, laughing about all this because he's like, I'm going to kill everyone. Ha 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 ha. Where the fuck is Fukurokuju?
And an intense fight with Raizu. Yeah, everyone's the much anticipated clash.
Then we cut to where Yamato is, and some of the Animal Kingdom pirates are like, "Oh, Master Yamato, where are you going?" And he just bowls them over while he's in his fox wolf form, and we get a quick establishment that he had to go into Onigashima through the mouth, and then he's got to go through it and then down through the neck in order to reach the weapons.
Much like Legends of the Hidden Temple. It had to take a very unorthodox route in there, but thankfully avoided the Shrine of the Silver Monkey, so I believe that's going to give Yamato enough time to complete everything.
Yes. Which I do think this is kind of a cool thing, and maybe we'll see a little bit more of it being done, because Yamato is racing through Onigashima. We see him kind of stumble across some bits of the important battles while he's running. But the only thing that we see him stumble across to begin with in this chapter is Kid's fight with Big Mom, which is going a lot better now that, Kid can actually, fight.
He's not getting punched in the head.
So Mom tries to go after Kid, and we establish that they had a quick little conversation just prior to this, where Kid was like, "Hey, Trafalgar, do you have awakened superpowers?" "Yes." And Allah says, "Well, I'm still getting used to my Bankai." But
yeah, pretty much.
And he essentially says, "Look, if I use it in the middle of a battle, then it basically guarantees that I'll lose." And Kid says, "Well, the same is true for me, but we're not getting anywhere like this. Use your last resort to back me up." And Law's awakened room is called Kroom, which I'm sure makes more sense in Japanese. I don't
know if that's supposed to be his awakened room yet. I assume we'd get a much bigger display if this was them actually using their awakened devil fruits at this point.
Well, maybe. He calls it...
Well, he could just be an idiot. He could have been like, Kroom! He's like, shit, I meant to say room.
Hey, wouldn't the awakened form of room be like, I don't know, house? Shit, that makes more sense.
I don't know why I went with Kroom first then.
just immediately was like, how do you make a room better? Croom. He puts anesthesia over his sword and plunges it through Big Mom's back, and it just goes straight through and comes out her chin and says, "The penetration does nothing on its own." Okay. Good that you are aware of that law. Anyway, he creates shockwaves from within and just shocks her with this taser penetrating sword thing, which causes Big Mom to start bleeding because, a sword electrocuted her from inside. So, yeah. But this, however, basically just annoys her because she's like, I'm going to fucking kill you. But that gives Kid an opening to assign magnetism to Big Mom. And this immediately causes Napoleon to stick to her head. And she's like, what's going on? Did I turn into a magnet? And immediately, everything metal in a pretty good area just immediately starts piling into Big Mom because she's a huge magnet now. Girders and weapons and lots of stuff. And then they're like, okay, let's leave now. And they teleport away.
Yeah, I guess that must be Kids then, at least, because that's him turning something that's not him into a magnet. So I guess that is also laws because he's using it on his sword. It's weird how those are portrayed because it is like these are the second and third times we've seen an awakened paramecia fruit, and like the first time was Doflamingos, which was this huge grand thing. So I was like, I just assumed the next times we'd see it would be equally as grand of a scale. And I mean, it's a cool attack, but like if that's the way Big Mom goes down, I'd be pretty bummed.
Yeah, well, we'll see. That's One Piece, and that is manga for this week, everyone.
Yep.
Thank you all for joining us. Favorite chapter in MVP?
I think my favorite chapter is gonna be Spy Family. I think of all the chapters I like this week, it's probably the one I enjoyed the most.
I think I am going to go with Undead Unluck.
Okay.
Because it's just a very complete little chapter. Hey, establish this new character, establish the stakes. Also, it's a top battle, and there are lots of things to enjoy about the way that it is all just portrayed, including just that one final image, which I really, really like. So,
yes. My character of the week, unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess to say, is going to have to be Star and Stripe because it might be the only cool thing she ever does in this series, but it was pretty fucking awesome. So I'll give credit where it's due.
Yeah, I think she's the only person who made me go, wow, shit, that's fucking awesome this week. So I think I'll go with her as well. If a character making a giant air golem version of themselves and smashing a laser beam spear into somebody, you can't make me give them MVP, then, I mean, what are they going to do? So, it's just, yeah, let's do that.
Yes. The audience, by the way, picked Spy Family as their series of the week and Fuko from Undead Unluck as their character of the week. Although Jay Flugel is commenting in the chat that Mission Yozakura Family should be series this week. It was much better. And the chapter this week was like, well, one sister doesn't know how to use technology. And they have wacky shenanigans throughout it. And the entire time I read the chapter, I was like, I liked it better when Shin did it. I Shield 21. It was funnier when Shin did it.
I don't think that you can do that trope with a character anymore because it was so perfect when Shin did it.
It really was. It really was.
All right. That is going to do it, everybody, for Weekly Manga Recap. We want to thank you guys for joining us. You can listen to us live on twitch.tv/RoloT here Wednesdays. Usually we get started around 7:30 Eastern time. But to stay updated on exactly when we go live, follow your hosts on Twitter @RoloT, @NickFTime, and the official podcast account @WMR Podcast. You can also check us out on weeklymangarecap.podbean.com, on youtube.com/weeklymangarecap, on iTunes, on Spotify, basically anywhere that podcasts can be listened to, you can find us there. The video versions are on YouTube, audio everywhere else. We would like to thank everyone who supports us on patreon.com/weeklymangarecap for giving us the support that allows us to create bonus content for you guys to enjoy, such as the monthly other recap.
Yes. There's going to be one hopefully recorded in the next couple days. So if you wanted to find out which of the non-recap series actually had the best shot of winning MVP and Chapter of the Week this week, you can find out during an episode because I let you know week by week which series I thought actually had the best chance of standing in there. So stay tuned for that.
And beyond that, we want to give thanks to everyone in our Discord server who creates, but we've got a wonderful community there. They do bi-weekly gaming nights. As Chris mentioned before, there are discussions when the chapters come out each week, as well as discussions of the series as we are getting set to do a proper review of it. So if you haven't checked it out already, you should do so. That is also a good place to find the Google Doc maintained by Ninja X3i, which keeps track of all sorts of statistics associated with our show. It makes our lives a whole lot easier when we know, for example, who you guys voted for each week. And yeah, check that out. We're coming up towards the end of the year as well, and there are all sorts of fun extra award things that get given out in that as well. So be sure to participate in those.
Yeah.
We also want to give special thanks to Milo Jack Stillitz and Winslow Cheddar for getting the opening sequence of Weekly Manga Recap, which you can see on the video versions on YouTube, and to Steve Man, who occasionally does title card artwork for us. You can check out his artwork on twitter.com/SteveManArt. He's got his own Patreon as well, and generally you can find him wherever boobs are allowed to be drawn on the internet. And with that said, I think that is going to do it, everyone.
Yeah, that is going to do it. So we will catch everybody next time where we talk about, hopefully, Imperial Guard, a series that was described as having saber-tooth tigers in it, and so far has been mind-numbingly boring despite having that premise to it. So we shall... It's
shocking.
Yeah. Like, there's saber-tooth tigers in every fucking panel, and it is one of the most impossible to read and enjoy series I've ever seen. So,
you know what I like about a war story that involves saber-toothed tigers?
Mm-hmm.
Discussion of politics and tactics.
While saber-toothed tigers are just in the background of panels every so often. All right, that's it. Goodbye, everybody.